For weeks after leaving Blackthorn Asylum, Dr. Clara dreamed only of wolves. They pressed inward, closer each night, until she could feel them breathing against her skin, warm, damp, and familiar. She would wake with her hand on her chest, convinced she'd feel the texture of stone instead of flesh. In daylight, she tried to resume her practice in London, but her patient hearts all beat to the same rhythm, her rhythm. The more she listened, the more she was certain that a single pulse ran through them all, connecting them like veins of one vast body. And at the center of it, she felt something watching. The letter. A month after her return, she received a letter without a seal. The handwriting was neat, familiar. Clara, you left too soon. The door was never behind you. It was within. Do you not feel it yet? Every breath, every beat, all mirrors of the same origin. I saw it once through Vale's eyes, then through my own. Now I see it through yours. When the mirror clears, you will understand. E.H. Her hand shook. Elias Harrow had been declared dead almost a year earlier. She burned the letter, but the ashes pulsed faintly before turning black. 2. The reflection. Days passed in a half-dream. Her mirror no longer showed her properly. Her face looked soft, like it was still deciding what shape to take. Some mornings her pupils dilated in perfect circles. Other mornings, they seemed to form faintly mirrored versions of the sigil. When she leaned closer to study them, the reflection leaned closer too, but just a fraction too late. And once, it whispered, "You're facing the wrong way." She stumbled back, striking the basin. The water rippled outward in 9 small waves before settling. That night, she covered every mirror in the house. 3. The pulse beneath the skin. Clara began to feel vibrations under her fingertips. Not her pulse, but something deeper, slower, as though another rhythm lay buried beneath her own. In her laboratory, she placed a stethoscope to her wrist. Nothing. Then, faintly, behind the ordinary heartbeat, came another, delayed by half a second, steady, patient. She moved the instrument to her chest. The second heartbeat answered from behind her. She froze. Her reflection, in the glass cabinet nearby, blinked even though she hadn't. 4. The patient with no face. One evening a stranger arrived at her door, a pale man with his face wrapped in cloth, claiming to have been a former patient of Blackthorn. His voice was low and rhythmic, each word timed to his breath. "You were there," he said. "You opened it." Clara tried to deny it, but his bandaged hand reached out and brushed her cheek. The fabric smelled of ether and dust. "The door remembers you," he whispered. "It's looking for a home." She tore away the cloth covering his face. There was nothing beneath, only faint impressions, as though a face had been pressed into soft wax and then erased. She screamed, but the sound came from him instead of her. When she blinked, he was gone. Only a faint smear on the glass remained, the shape of her own face, distorted and half-formed. 5. The mirror of flesh. Sleep abandoned her. The walls of her home began to shift subtly, lines bending, corners softening. In the candlelight, the plaster seemed almost organic, veins of shadow pulsing faintly. And in the center of the parlor wall, something began to appear, a dark oval, spreading outward in slow, wet strokes. A door. She recognized it instantly. The 9th. The sigil bloomed above it, red as a wound. Her heart stuttered once, twice. From the other side came the faintest whisper, the same voice that had haunted her mirror. "Come back inside. You've only ever been looking inward." She stepped closer. The air around the doorway shimmered like heat. Her reflection appeared upon it, faint at first, then vivid, alive. It smiled. "Do you understand now?" it asked. "You are the door." The heartbeat filled the room, louder, doubling, until the sound came from every wall, every breath. Her reflection raised its hand and placed it flat against the surface. Without thinking, she matched it. The moment her palm touched the door, she felt warmth spread up her arm, a pulse, deep and slow. The reflection's eyes turned black. 6. The collapse. The next morning, her neighbors reported a tremor in the ground, a deep, resonant thudding that lasted several minutes before fading. When the constables forced open her house, they found the walls strangely smooth, as though freshly plastered. Every mirror was shattered, the shards arranged neatly in 9 concentric rings on the floor. Of Clara there was no sign, but in the parlor wall, beneath the faded wallpaper, a faint outline could be seen, like the imprint of a human figure, arms outstretched, palms pressed outward as though trying to feel the air. The plaster there was warm to the touch, and if one placed an ear against it, one could hear a heartbeat. Not 1, 2, 7, the city breathes. Within the month, strange reports spread through London. Mirrors across the East End fogged over without cause. Some claimed to see faces behind the glass that did not match their own. Doctors noted a curious phenomenon. Patients in distant hospitals sharing identical pulse patterns, their heartbeats falling into sync for brief, inexplicable intervals. A nurse in Blackthorn Asylum swore she saw a door appear in the reflection of a silver tray, black oak, glowing faintly red, vanishing when she turned it over. The phenomenon spread quietly, like a thought whispered through blood. Those who heard it never forgot the rhythm. 8. The last reflection. On a misty evening in late autumn, a street child found an old hand mirror near the riverbank. Its surface was cracked but oddly warm. He lifted it to his face. A woman's voice whispered faintly from within. "Can you hear it?" The boy frowned, pressed it closer. A heartbeat answered from behind the glass, slow and patient, waiting. He set the mirror down and ran. The mirror fogged over. In the dim reflection, a woman's pale hand brushed the inside of the glass. The sigil pulsed once, faintly, and faded. The dreams began 3 nights after Clara left the asylum. At first, they were simple repetitions, echoes of a waking world, only slightly misaligned. She would dream of washing her hands, but when she lifted them from the basin, the water was red. She would walk to her mirror, and her reflection would smile too early. Small errors, glitches of sleep. But then the door began to appear. It never stood in the same place twice. Sometimes at the end of a hallway, sometimes behind her bedroom window, sometimes within her own chest when she dreamt she had no bones. And always, the symbol above it burned faintly red. 1. The first awakening. The night it spoke to her, she had been unable to sleep. The silence in her rented room pressed close, as though someone stood beside her bed. She turned. Nothing. Then, thump, a heartbeat, heavy and deep, came not from within her, but from the wall. She placed a hand against it. The plaster felt warm. It rose and fell as if breathing. She whispered, "No, not again." But when she tried to step back, her fingers would not release. The skin of her palm had softened, sinking slightly into the wall, as if it were clay. She yanked free with a wet sound. A perfect imprint of her hand remained in the plaster, still pulsing faintly red. That was when she heard it. "You left the door open, Clara." The voice came from inside her mind, yet it vibrated the glass of the window. "You brought me into the waking world." 2. The living town. By morning, the entire village felt wrong. The butcher's window was fogged from the inside, though no one was there. The bell tower rang at uneven intervals, its rhythm disturbingly close to a heartbeat. And people, those few she passed on the street, moved as though distracted, their eyes glazed, their skin pale and slightly translucent, as if light had forgotten them. She found the innkeeper sitting perfectly still in the common room. His chest barely rose. "Mr. Hollis," she said. He turned his head too slowly. "You should not have opened it," he murmured. "It's dreaming now. You will wake it." "What?" "The door. It's learning how to sleep like us, how to breathe." Then his jaw shuddered, and from the corner of his mouth came a small red flicker, like a heartbeat trapped in light, before he slumped forward, silent. 3. The anatomy of sleep. That night, Clara dissected herself. Not literally, at least not at first. She sat before the mirror, notebook in hand, sketching what she remembered from Harrow's notes. The heart, the 9 doorways, the black sigil. As she traced the outline of the 9th door, her reflection did not follow. Her mirrored hand continued to draw, independent of her. It smiled faintly, even as her own face remained still. "You study what you cannot kill," it whispered. Clara stood so suddenly that the chair fell. The reflection rose a second later, slow and deliberate, and pressed a hand to the inside of the glass. The glass rippled like water. She should have run. Instead, she reached out and touched it. Her reflection's hand felt real. warm, pulsing. And when she pulled away, she found something clinging to her fingertips, thin, translucent strands that looked disturbingly like veins. She screamed and flung them off, but they vanished before they touched the floor. 4. The door that dreamed. The dreams deepened. She found herself walking through endless corridors lined with black doors, each bearing the sigil. Some whispered her name. Others pulsed softly, waiting. At the center stood a door made of flesh. It quivered as though breathing, veins crawling across its surface like roots. The handle was a human hand, reaching outward. When she grasped it, the door shuddered and whispered in her ear, "You are the breath between my dreams." It opened, and she stepped through, into her own body. She saw herself sleeping, pale and motionless, her chest rising and falling in a rhythm that did not match the beating of her heart. Inside her dream body's chest, the 9th door had taken root, tiny, black, and pulsing. With each beat, it grew. 5. The skin of reality. She woke gasping. Her bedsheets were soaked not with sweat, but with condensation, as if the air had condensed from within her lungs. The walls of her room had changed. The wallpaper seemed organic, faintly textured like skin. She tore a piece away. Underneath, there was no plaster, only muscle, twitching faintly in time with her heartbeat. She stumbled backward and hit the mirror. It cracked down the center. Her reflection did not move. It smiled, slow and wide. "Do you see now? You are not in your world anymore. You're in mine." Then the reflection blinked sideways, like an animal with 2 sets of eyelids. "The door is dreaming, Clara, and you are inside its sleep." The glass pulsed once, then split apart like wet paper. From within came a pale arm, then another, then the faint outline of Harrow, his face slack and glistening, his eyes replaced by black sigils. He whispered, "We are all part of the same heartbeat now." And his jaw opened too wide, revealing not a throat but a corridor lined with doors. 6. The descent. Clara ran, through hallways that weren't hallways anymore, just pulsing tunnels, the walls slick and whispering. Each step took her deeper into something that was not the inn, not the village, something vast and alive. At the center of it, she found a single black doorway carved from her own shadow. She knew what it was before she touched it. The 9th door. Its symbol flared red, and the air itself seemed to sigh. "You opened me once," it said. "Now, let me dream of you." She felt herself pulled forward, her skin stretching like fabric, her bones dissolving into sound. Her last coherent thought was that the heartbeat she'd heard all along was not the asylum's, not hers. It was a heartbeat of the door itself, dreaming of being human. 7. The awakening. When she woke, she was standing in a mirror. Her hands were glass. Behind her reflection was a black hallway stretching into forever. On the other side of the mirror, her old world, someone new was staring in. A young boy, eyes wide with curiosity. He touched the glass, and Clara's reflection smiled. "Don't be afraid," she whispered from behind the glass. "Dream with me." The boy hesitated, then smiled back, and somewhere, far beneath the world, a heartbeat began again. 1 beat, then another, then 9. The world rebuilt itself around her heartbeat. Clara drifted between consciousness and a memory that did not belong to her. Stone corridors formed and dissolved, their mortar pulsing like veins beneath translucent walls. Every surface breathed. Every breath whispered her name. At first, she believed she was still dreaming. Then she saw Harrow, younger now, his eyes bright with a fever of discovery. He stood before a great iron door inscribed with a sigil. Behind him, the air shimmered as though the universe itself strained to hold its shape. "Do you know what this is?" he asked her, though he did not yet know her. "It's where life remembers how to begin." The chamber he entered was circular, carved into black rock slick with condensation. Along the walls, dozens of hearts-beating glass jars, their rhythms weaving into one vast cadence, the 9th pulse. Clara tried to move closer, but found her feet had merged with the floor, her flesh and the stone the same trembling substance. She could feel the heartbeat of every jar vibrating in her bones. Harrow reached the center of the room, where a pool of dark fluid rippled like liquid shadow. He dipped his hand in and screamed. His arm dissolved, reshaping into something alive but unmade. The pool spoke in a voice that was both thunder and whisper. This is the price of creation. The door opens both ways. The fluid surged up, engulfing him, then spreading through the chamber like veins reaching for new flesh. Clara felt it touch her ankle. The sensation was exquisite and unbearable, every nerve awakening, every boundary erased. She saw a reflection in the liquid surface. Not human, but a lattice of pulsating light, her heart a tiny door opening and closing to some unseen rhythm. "You are not dying," it said. "You are being remembered." As the chamber filled, her body dissolved into the same luminous substance that had devoured Harrow. Their shapes merged, identities lost in the rhythm. And when the final jar burst, the chamber exhaled once, slow, reverent, and went still. From the darkness, a new heartbeat began. Not human, not divine, something in between.